In the 7th section of the presentation and Chapter 7 of the book, here we look at an area that's rapidly growing in the field of clinical immunology, specifically oncoimmunology, with the advent of a living therapy, namely CAR T cells. With this new therapy, which isn't quite available yet, still very much in the experimental stage, we're actually able to program specific cells that will hunt down and destroy cancer cells while stimulating an immune cascade to generally create an immune response against the cancer.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so remember I mentioned before that due to current technology, they are coming up with synthetic antibodies, and they're also coming up with synthetic T cells. Synthetic T cells are called CAR T cells, which stands for chimeric antigen receptor modified T cell, CAR Ts. Okay, these T cells are engineered. They take T cells from the patient, and what they do is they add a receptor site. These are first generation, second generation, third generation T cells. So what these T cells do is they cut out the middleman of the antibodies in terms of targeting, because they have the targeting capacity built into the T cell. So they put these things back into the patient, they circulate around, and they find the targets and destroy them. So it makes it so it bypasses the whole monoclonal antibody piece, and it bypasses the whole humoral response, and bypasses a lot of stuff. Research has been very excellent on this. I have a wonderful little presentation. If I have 5 minutes at the end, you want to see it, I have it. It's given by a guy from Sloan, but I won't take the time this very second. But here's what I was saying before. Check this out. Many new targeted cancer therapies, biomarkers, we talked about what that meant before, we talked about HER2, are on the way. These are the things that are in research. 500 compounds hitting, okay? 140 different targets in development, meaning in clinical trials right now, okay? So the KIR1 and the CD137s are just the tip of the iceberg. This is what's coming, okay? So some of the stuff looks familiar, right? So TNF, we talked about that before. We talked about, in terms of this whole section here are inflammatory pathway things. mTOR, we talked about that. This is, the Erbitux hit that, but there's other things that are going after it now too. So this is where modern medicine is going in terms of immunotherapy. And as these things hit, you're going to see chemotherapy disappear into the distance and to the point of extinction, because they're developing so many new immunotherapy agents to hit every conceivable target that involves either development of cancer, either the initiation and progression of cancer, or the defense and attack of cancer, that immunotherapy is clearly going to be where it's at. So you need to understand what's out there, what's coming, and also how to balance some of the side effects. Okay, check this out. This is hot off the press, February of this year. Okay, there's the website. You can read it for yourself. What's this? ASCO president. What's it say? Okay, that's what's coming. All right. So I love IPT. Okay, don't get me wrong. I use IPT, but my days of using IPT I can see are numbered, because I can see what's coming down the road. I can talk to these people and see what's in the pipeline, and then I'm not going to need it. This is a great website. I highly recommend it. It's the Cancer Research Institute, and what this website does is you go here and you'll click on impacting all cancers. Click on that, and it'll give you system by system all the cancers. And what it will tell you is all the immunotherapies that are currently available or in development for that kind of cancer. You cannot click on a kind of cancer that you can imagine that does not have an immunotherapy in development or in trial right now. That's the website where you can track it. And I track it all the time because it's amazing. I just love reading about this stuff. Okay? So there's a few books that I enjoy reading on the subject of oncoimmunology. This is a book that was written by Dr. Coley's daughter. Okay, she wrote this back in '84, and what she did was she got together all of her father's papers and some other supporting documentation to put this thing out. And it's a wonderful book describing basically the very pioneering beginnings of premeditated immunotherapy. It's way ahead of sticking a stick in the leg. All right. Other books I recommend are things like this. Now, a lot of the slides that I showed you today, the basic science slides, came out of this book. This is a super simplified book in immunology. It's a good starting place. If you need a refresher, this is a good place to go. A step beyond that would be a textbook, Immunology by Roit, R-O-I-T-T. That'll get you up to speed. And then these books will take you into the realm of oncoimmunology. It's not cheap. I mean, these books are rather expensive, unfortunately. Talking about costs, Sean, I could tell you about my library costs. Okay, here's another one. And these books are just wonderful in terms of understanding the mechanisms and what's out there, immunotherapy of cancer, methods and protocols, so on and so forth. Now, there are this book looks at allergo oncology, looks at the effect of allergy against generating IgE antibodies against cancer, and all kinds of vaccines that are designed to do that. Here's that book again that has all that information about astragalus and other things. Highly recommended, not cheap. This is a great book. I love this book. It's entitled The Death of Cancer. Anybody who has not read this book is missing something very important. DeVita is a well-known oncologist with credentials longer than both my arms put together, and he wrote a book that basically shows how the thing that is preventing the cure of cancer today has nothing to do with politics. All right. It's so sad, but I mean, this guy is a very, very influential guy, and it's a wonderful book. I highly recommend it. It's on my nightstand, and it's something I read quite a lot. Now, if I was to pick one book on immunology and cancer immunology, one book to read to try to understand all the stuff I threw at you today, which unfortunately was very brief, was just a brief overview because of time and all that, but I tried to give you an encapsulated view of how important the biochemistry is, innate immune system, adaptive immune system, targeted precision immunology. But the one book I would recommend is this. I'm not kidding. This is not a joke. The reason I recommend this book, okay, and Sunil is looking at me like I just grew a second head. Okay, the reason I recommend this book, if you just think about it for about 20 seconds, you'll understand. When I was back there showing you about the monoclonal antibodies, okay, the first antibody I showed you was what kind of an antibody? It was a murine antibody. Okay, murine means mouse. Where was this research done? All of this research was done in mice. Figuring out all these pathways of the immune system was done where? In mice and other animals, rabbits, guinea pigs, what have you. Wasn't done in humans. All the basic science research, all of the basic science research in the field of immunology was originally done, and still is being done, in animals. So if you're looking for primary information to understand how a specific cell works or a specific reaction works, this is the book that's going to give you that primary information. All the information that's in this book and books like it, okay, the textbooks that they use in medical schools now and when I was in medical school, all those textbooks are all implied and inferred data from animal studies. There are differences between a mouse's immune system and a human immune system, okay? They have antibodies that we don't have. There's a number of differences, okay? And these books all contain implied and inferred data, okay? They do some studies in people to try to confirm certain key aspects of that for sure. But all the basic science research was not done in humans. It was done in animals. Okay, so if you want to understand, thanks Tom, have a good evening. So if you want to understand what's going on and where this immunology came from and where this science came from and where this science is going, okay, this is the book that's going to tell you that. So Sunil, does that make a little more sense now? Okay, Because you looked at me like he lost his something. But I'm serious. I mean, I did research at the University of Arizona and published studies and whatever, and those were mouse studies, okay? And I was working with some very smart veterinarians. And they're the ones that made the point to me first, and this is going back to 20 years ago, and then some. They said, look, the study you want to do is very good, but, we need some references from mouse data, not from your human textbooks, because there are differences. And then it dawned on me that they were right. And then I bought the first, and I buy every edition this guy ever wrote, okay? Because this is the best author on the subject. And it's just amazing when you read this, and then you see how it's applied to human immunology, and there are some differences. Okay, so now what we have the foundational biochemistry, we have the innate immune system, the adaptive immune system, precision immunology with monoclonal antibodies and CAR T cells.